There's an age-old adage to never judge a book by its cover, yet somehow I always find myself doing just that. And this episode was a prime case of why you should never do so. What I thought would be an episode that I absolutely hated turned out to be the best episode of the season and probably the era so far. This was a wild, amazing time, and there was so much here that I loved. I there was so much to hear. There was so much here. I actually took notes for this one, which I never really do for these Doctor Who videos. I kind of like to keep them off the cuff, like my raw, vloggy style thoughts. But I took some notes for this one because there is so much to discuss. But I will say this is a bridge episode between like the core season and the finale two-parter. There always tends to be something like that in a lot of these seasons, and it's always determined whether like it's hard to determine whether this is like part one of a three-parter. It's kind of like Utopia, where it starts off from season three, where it starts off like a set standalone story, and then you see it melt into sort of what the finale two-parter is trying to do, and this is definitely that. That's all I will say before I get into spoilers, but this like had me feel like I was watching like the first era Russell T Davies seasons again. This had me feeling that energy and that excitement and that hype. And like what it's trying to do is like it is trying to tell a good standalone story and a very important standalone story, but also trying to lay out all the groundwork. It's trying to lay bare all the threads that we need to remember going into this finale. And there was a lot that I wouldn't have necessarily remembered and thought that would be a big part of this finale. For example, there's something going on with Poppy, who was one of the babies, I think, from Space Babies, which was a pretty shit tier episode. I mean, it wasn't horrible, but it was just from the last season. And there's something going on with her because apparently, like, I didn't know this, the girl that Belinda saw a vision of during the story in the engine was Poppy. I didn't realize that. But most people were saying that, so it was like, okay, I guess that's what's going on, the case here. And they're like blatantly over and over again pushing the name Poppy in this episode related to that corporation. I can never remember. I keep wanting to call it Fagarling, which is the family, the Holy Knight family from One Piece. Is it Villengard Corporation? Is that it? Similar energy. Yeah, Villengard. Nice to name your villain group Villengard. I think that's pretty your like evil corporation Villengard is pretty on the nose, Russell. But that's been a thread going on throughout these two seasons, and I think it's really starting to culminate because it's getting more and more ever present in the core narrative, and it actually leads me to wonder. Like my theory is guessing. I can't remember what Villengard's role was in Space Babies, if that was like part of the dynamic of that station or not, but my guess, if that wasn't the case, and correct me if I'm wrong, if I'm just misremembering, that like Poppy will end up being the founder, or like current CEO of some kind, but it doesn't really make sense because we're seeing Villengard throughout like time and space, throughout all of history, not really at one core time, but I would say if it's founder, that makes sense. But I am also wondering, based on the reveal at the end of the episode, if Villengard has some sort of connection to the Rani. So, yeah, I guess I'll get into that right now. We got the Miss Flood reveal this episode, which I was not expecting. I thought they would hold that till next episode, but it makes sense because it's sort of parallel to, like I said, with Utopia. This reminds me of that episode so much. It's parallel to that where it revealed the master reveal at the end of that before going into the finale two-parter, and this was definitely like that energy. I don't really know anything about the Rani. I'm not that far along in Classic Who yet to know who she is. I know she is another renegade Time Lord, and it's supposed to be like a third complement to the Doctor and the Master, who I think she was like, like I don't know. I guess it would have been retconned in at the time, but I guess like, I think she was introduced to like the Sixth Doctor's era, I think. But yeah, I guess she's supposed to be like a third complement to that duo. And it's very interesting that she hasn't. If she that's the case, that she hasn't appeared in Modern Who yet. I don't really know anything else about her. I think she's some sort of like scientist, but like a non-ethical one, and that's probably why she left Time Source Society and became Renegade, to try to like, you know, use the universe as her sort of canvas for her experiments. That's kind of like the gist of all I know about this character. I know some people were saying that's a possible Miss Blood theory. I think a lot of people were saying that was a theory last season with Susan Twist or whatever. Yeah, because I don't know the character, I don't really have a positive or negative sentiment about that reveal. I think it's cool. But like I said, I'm not a fan of the character or not. So it's not like, you know, like when Missy was revealed to be Master, I was already a huge Master fan, you know, so it was like that reveal was like insane at the time, you know. So this is not, doesn't have that weight for me, but it's like I was like, oh cool, that's like a, you know, I'm not disappointed in that. I thought she was going to be Susan Foreman 100%, but it seems that they're keeping Susan Foreman as a core part of this finale story, because the Doctor, once he goes in, like, you know, there's a point where they all get stuck in space and he sort of dies and comes back a little bit. He starts having these overpowering visions of her, and obviously they're going to tie into the finale two-part, I would imagine. I assume, I looked it up, I didn't realize she was still alive, Carol Ann Ford. She's still alive, so I assume she'll be a character in the finale. What her deal is, what her role in the story is, what's going on with the Doctor right now, I have no idea. But it seemed to trigger the Doctor into some sort of like enraged frenzy in this episode that was like out of character. It reminded me so much of David in The Waters of Mars. Like that kind of performance and that energy. It was definitely Time Lord Victorious energy. And I'm very interested to see where that leads. And it seemed to be directly triggered by Susan, which is interesting. I really don't know what's going on there, and I think it's up to the finale to sort of explain that for us. So speaking of the finale, I'll get into like the core themes of the episode soon, but speaking of the finale, oh wait, before I get into that, I want to talk a little bit, you know, I'll get into the core themes of the episode now, because you know, so there's the two like villains in this. They're part of this this race. God, I can't remember the name. This race that was heavily persecuted. It seems that the Villain Guard Corporation purchased the planet and all of the people on it, which is insane. You know, like like level 10, like death state capitalism at its finest. And they completely demeaned and persecuted the people, stole all their resources, and then burned the planet, and genocided them. And what's so interesting is the study of how a corporation, a corporate entity, can like distill so much propaganda that everyone in the universe hates them and sees them as menaces, you know. And that wasn't a government that did that. That was a corporation that did that. And I feel like that's really, really fascinating. And it made the core story as interesting as, like, you know, all of this setup stuff that's going on for the finale, in my opinion. I thought it was I thought it was great, you know, like it was incredibly well done. Sorry, I just got a pop-up that I have to address immediately. Okay. Anyway, yeah, so I thought that was a really interesting experiment, and a lot of people were flipping out about how the Doctor handled this character who was going to kill trillions of people as sort of revenge for the genocide and persecution he underwent. I thought it made like it made sense, not in the Doctor justification of the Doctor's behavior, but in the fact that there's clearly something going on with the Doctor, and it wasn't like a lot of people were saying like this is insane, the Doctor would never behave this way. Exactly. Like, that's the point. That's what it's trying to say, is that this is not normal Doctor behavior. Something is going on with his mind. You know, something tied into Susan and it's triggering him, and something is going wrong with his brain right now, and that's part of the story. It's not like like I don't understand. Like normal doctor would not do this because he's not normal doctor right now. Like I don't understand people like what's going on. People are like saying how insane that was, and I'm like, yes, he's not himself. Like that's what's going on here. But yeah, I loved these two villains. They come in, they're so over the top and cheesy, but when you get to why they're doing what they're doing, it reminded me so much of like I completely saw Blake and Adam from Ruby, like the exact same characters in my head. Like that's the exact energy I was getting, and I like sort of headcanoned a lot of their experience onto it, which is canon because that's kind of a very similar experience with like the Shiny Dust Company and everything that Adam Blake did in Ruby. Like it's pretty much the same characters, and I kind of like headcanon that onto them. So I really loved these villains, and I really like I hope we see them back, and I hope they're a presence in the finale. But yeah, like, but it's like one of those situations where it's like you understand what brought them to this point. There's no justification for what they're doing, but you understand why they're there, and I think that's like, that's a marks of like great villains. It's like there's their behavior is horrific, but you understand the circumstances and the abuse and the trauma that they underwent to get them to that point. So yeah, like all to say, like I thought like they were great, even despite the insane level of cheesiness at the start. Okay, what else do I have here? But yeah, no, I did think it was weird how like this corporation was able to spin like, oh, these people are like menaces because of the horns on their head, and it's like this is a universe where, I mean, even in this episode we see like insane looking alien races like constantly, humanoid looking aliens with horns on their head would not like, I guess it just shows the power of Villain Guard and their like propaganda wing, but like that would not be something that's like, oh, they're just people with horns on, like it's like not a questionable thing, yet somehow they've been so demonized. No, so I thought that was a little weird, but I guess it makes sense in the context of the propaganda. So I can't remember if I said this. I wonder if the Ronnie did like is involved with Villain Guard, and that's like kind of her thing, her next project. I don't know. So one last thing I wanted to talk about before I end this video is sort of a crackpot theory that I have going on. So, what are the two finale episodes? I don't know if I caught that stomach growl. I am very hungry. Can I not just find a list? 25. So they are called, Wikipedia still saying a Series 15. Let's go. But that leads me to a point. Like really, this rebranding is insane because it's all threads from like the old show. So we got the Wish World and the Reality War, are the finale two-parter, and so clearly it's going to be something that messes the head of the series, like what is reality and what is not, what is actually happening and what is not, and like because we know from the rest of the show that the world does not end, in 2025, because we've seen when the Earth actually ends in canon in the show. So it's like obviously there's something going on with reality that's being warped and misused. I guess it seems like the Ronnie's probably involved in it, or if it's something with the Pantheon that they're gonna finally wrap up this Pantheon story. Cause it's still leaking in, it still has its fingers all year. But yeah, really, there's so many threads going into this finale that I hope Russell sticks the landing, because like there's so many threads dressed. There's like Villain Guard, there's Susan, there's the Ronnie, there's like what happened to the world, there's the Pantheon, there's so much. But something interesting is my theory, like with these tells and everything, is like I wonder if Belinda isn't real. There's like, we saw her in this scenario that was like incredibly similar to Martha's, and I think we only saw her from the perspective of the doctor watching. We never saw her from like anyone's alone perspective. Oh, I guess when she was taken, like by the robots in the robot revolution. But it leads me to wonder if she is real in the first place, because she seems to be some sort of wish fulfillment for the Doctor, and like his like kind of neediness for this, you know, and this dynamic. That was something I touched upon a lot in my conversation about the robot revolution. My thoughts on that episode. Like I wonder if she's not even real. I don't know where that would go or how to think, because she always keeps mentioning her two parents, but even in the callbacks to Earth, we never see those two parents. We only see her in the context of her work and being with the Doctor. There's no other context in which we see her. So I really wonder if there's something going on with Belinda not being real, and it kind of like goes back to like thinking about like Mundy from was it Boom last season, you know. I wonder if there's something there. I don't know if this has any legs. I don't really have like a development for that theory, but I wonder if something happens with that, I'm onto it. Anyway, speaking of Belinda though, her like when she like kind of broke down in this episode, like that was so fucking real. Like being like, oh my god, like the crushing realization that like I'm lost in the middle of time and space, so far away from home, and the one person that knows what they're doing and I've been traveling with and knows how to navigate this is gone. Like, definitively thought that he was dead, you know, and like I'm stranded here all, and like the breakdown that she has, like the hysterical, is like so fucking real, and it's like so rare you see that from a companion that I thought that was great. Anyway, those are my overall thoughts on this episode. This was so fucking good, and I really hope Russell sticks to landing, since the last finale two-parter was pretty awful. I really hope Russell sticks to landing this time, because I'm so excited for Doctor Who again. This felt like I was watching like seasons 3 and 4, like literally. Like I said, this episode is very similar to Utopia in my mind, and for the episode I thought I would hate the most to be by far my favorite of the season so far. That's awesome. I love that. Anyway, those are my thoughts on the episode. Very excited for the finale two-parter. We'll see what we get.